tell him about the time we faced him.
All right. Well, as I remember.
At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel Revolution Show with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And we're back straight away, guys, for our second show of the day or the evening. We're going to get straight on with some news today. So, Jarian, I'm going to hand the reins over to you, and I'm just going to be an observer. So, where you go. It's all you. I'm just going to sit back and relax.
Yeah, so there's been some speculation about will Marvel have any presentations at San Diego Comic-Con? Will everything be D23? It's all been back and forth, but Kevin Feige has confirmed during Thor: Love and Thunder press conference that they will be attending the event to talk about future TV and movie plans. So Comic-Con and D23 will be both to watch to see what Marvel does. I wonder, are they going to split it up? But yeah, if you think about what they have out there for their slate and what we've seen, D23 was probably going to be not enough time to present everything, so it's good to see that they're probably going to split that up between D23 and Comic-Con.
Well, we're kind of running out of projects that they've announced, aren't we? That really and truly, what have we got left that's yet to come that they've announced?
Well, we still haven't got no official announcement on Werewolf by Night. Nova, nothing.
No.
Nothing with Ghost Rider.
No.
We haven't really seen anything with Armor Wars either.
Wars.
No, but we know it's happening at least.
We know what's happening though.
But it's very vague. Yeah, I think what we'll probably get is more information on the stuff that we know is happening. So, like you say, Armor Wars, Ironheart, Secret Invasion, the Marvels, Quantum Mania, and we'll probably get confirmation of what that fourth slot is, or that third slot is next year. And then probably on D23, we'll get a whole load of new stuff that they're going to announce.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we get the director at one for Fantastic Four and the cast at the other.
Mm-hmm.
Or possibly the cast and director at both during one of them.
Yeah, I think you might be right there.
Because that's the big mystery one right now.
It seems like they've almost got like 1 foot in Comic-Con and 1 foot out almost is kind of what they're moving towards here.
Yeah, well, they have their own content stream. They can do it now, their own platform. So they don't exactly need Comic-Con, but with so much they have out there, like we saw all those show announcements like Zombies and that kind of stuff, and things that we don't know when and where they're coming, they're going to have to divide and conquer, because I think, like I said, I think it's too much to do at D23 with what they have that day between Star Wars and other Disney properties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting... San Diego Comic-Con is the 21st of July.
Yep, it's
sort of 24th, 25th. So we've got about 4 or 5 weeks to that, and then D23 is beginning of September.
Yep. So that Saturday, the Saturday session is supposed to be when we have the Marvel and Star Wars presentations.
Right. Okay. So we've got 4 weeks to wait for some big announcements, and then another sort of 5 weeks to wait, and then hopefully more big announcements.
Yep.
Superb.
James Gunn has said why Marvel movies are so popular. A lot of the modern films exist today simply because of VFX. People always ask me, why are Marvel movies so popular today when they aren't in the past? I'll tell you 100% for me, 100% because the VFX got to the place where we can make it believable that a metal guy is flying around. So many people, especially if you get on Twitter and people get into these arguments of it's practical effects versus VFX, which is better. And it's like, guys, it's whatever suits the situation. Oftentimes it's CGI. There are certain things you cannot do with practical effects. Sometimes practical effects, and then a lot of times it's something in between. And that's where I sort of love to play, because people can be lazy with CGI and they can't just go in there and go, we'll figure it out later. And then you got to make stuff up. But when you plan these things out, then you can put things together in such a way. We did a lot of that. And that's talking about what he's done in his Marvel movies and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I totally agree with him on the special effects point of view. It's whatever suits the scene or the outcome that you're trying to create. But I think in regards to what makes Marvel movies popular, I wouldn't say it's I mean, obviously it helps, the fact that the CGI has advanced, but I think it's the interwoven universe that they've created. You know, that one movie links into the next one. I think that's what makes it special. And if you look at what everyone's trying to do now, what Star Wars are trying to do, what DC have been, I don't know whether they're actually trying to do it or not, but everyone seems to be trying to, you know, get that
Cohesion. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cohesiveness. Tomato. But yeah, I think everyone's trying to get a little bit of that going, aren't they? And I think that's the recipe. That's why it's worked. Not necessarily because the visual effects have just got better. I mean, again, it helps, but I don't think that's the key.
But you know, think of them trying to do, wasn't that Avengers movie in the past they tried to do with Thor and Hulk and Iron Man? If they tried, even with the interconnectedness they have today, if they tried to do that story back then, I don't think it would work. So I definitely agree. The what they can do today definitely helps. Technology has improved to where it is so much more believable.
Yeah.
But the story is the big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, what's RMC said there? Look.
Oh, I opened the chat up. Whoops. Rookie mistake.
Yeah. So RMC said a combination of all effects, storyline, actors, directors, producers, etc. And Marvel has the formula. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it is, isn't it? It's finding the right actors, the right directors, and you know they've built an empire, really, haven't they?
Yep.
Gunn further went on to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Yes, the Holiday Special is very light and bubbly and fun and just absolutely ridiculous. So I think that's great. And then we're going to do Peacemaker Season 2. The Holiday Special is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. It's totally ridiculous. And every day we can't believe that we're making it. We all completely love it. It's unlike anything that anyone's ever seen before. I can't wait for people to see it. So...
Excellent. Sounds like they're having good fun doing that one then.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and probably going to get that big intro to somebody, kind of like Boba Fett, which probably is Adam Warlock in that holiday special.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thor: Love and Thunder. This may be Hemsworth's last film as Thor. He said the last one I just shot was Thor: Love and Thunder, and it may be my last. I don't know. So,
yeah, it might be his last for a little while, but I think he'll be back in that role. I think that's a role for life, really. That he can you know come in and out of pretty much whenever he wants.
yep.
I can't see him dying. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
And there's tons of Thor stories they can tell.
And as Guardians live for thousands of years, so unless he dies, like you can't really just like have him just disappear in the MCU, you know? Like he's such a big character. Like
it could be maybe he's done with solo films, you know, and maybe he's just going to be doing appearances and team ups in the future. That could be it as well. So
yeah, no, I agree, and I think that I also read somewhere that he said that he would come back and do them forever. Basically, he said he basically turned around and he said, as long as they want me, I'll come back and keep doing it. And you know, like you say, they might not want him for more solo movies, but dropping into team ups, dropping into the ensemble movies, dropping in as cameos here and there. I think if his schedule allows, I think he would do it. He seems like the type of guy that wants to do that. So,
and Jane Foster playing the mighty Thor, it kind of sounds like that's temporary. So
yeah, I don't see that long term.
Yeah.
No.
So Feige did address this about the Thor stories. He said, I know this. There are many, many other Thor stories in the comics that we talk about a lot. And as we watch Chris Hemsworth continue to grow and evolve as a major acting talent, I would be excited to see how he keeps evolving this complex character. And that's from Feige about this. So, yeah, he's not done.
He's not
Maybe
going
solo.
anywhere.
Yeah, I think solo-wise he could be done, but, you know, doing other films, other team-ups, he'll be there. The premiere was on Thursday, I think, last Thursday. And it looks like the runtime is 1 hour and 59 minutes.
Yeah, short. They were saying, weren't they? That's really short.
Yeah, but they're getting great reviews from it. So everything I'm hearing is great. They're saying Taki has gone to another level with this film, and so I'm excited to see it. And then even the latest TV spot we saw Celestials. You know, so I wonder if we're going to see the creation of the Rainbow Bridge, how they recreate it, or what how that ties into. But maybe we'll see how Nowhere became. But we're going to have Celestials in the film.
I've done really well to stay away from all the other. I haven't seen anything other than that second trailer. No, it's all right. It doesn't matter. I'm not bothered if I haven't seen it. But I was going to say I'd like to see War of the Realms. I'd really like to see War of the Realms made made a movie. I think that would be an excellent movie, and I'd like to see somehow. I'd like to see Christopher Eccleston come back as Malekith to execute that as well. I'm not sure how, but I think he's brilliant. Christopher Eccleston.
Multiverse.
Yeah. There you go. Done.
So Taika Waititi has said, "Don't expect the multiverse in this film." He says, "I feel like this one feels more original and unique, and stands apart from a lot of other Marvel films because of the element of love and leaning into that idea of what love means for all these characters. You never go to those superhero movies to see a movie about love. It's a preposterous answer. No fan wants to see that. But as I said with the last film, they don't know what they want until they get it." And look how he did with Ragnarok. So.
I love that. And do you know my favourite response that I'm seeing on the internet at the moment? That I just think, what are you talking about? And people go, yeah, fans didn't ask for this or need it. Like when people say that, you're like, what? When have fans ever asked for any, any movie, or when do we need anything? Like what he's just said there, like they don't know that they want it until we give it to them, and then they want it, and you're like, yeah, no, that's us. We're just like, yeah, go on, keep it coming. We'll keep watching it. But that's a weird response. I quite like the idea that this could actually stand away from everything else that's going on at the minute. It's almost like a bit of a break, because it feels like that. And as I think you're gonna bring the quote up from Kevin Feige in a little while about where we're going and what's going to be revealed, I kind of don't feel like this is going to have as much of a play into that as other projects.
No, I don't think so. I think we'll get some identity stuff here from what I've seen from the trailers, like we've seen through Phase 4, but I don't think this is going to be a big movie for Phase 4.
Yeah.
And as far as the multiverse thing, Roxy likes that because she hates the multiverse, so she's glad it's not a multiverse film. Well, we kind of have that back-to-back film, so
I could totally see the sword being from the multiverse, though.
The Necro Sword.
Yeah, so basically, like the sword, is from some multiversal being or something, and that's the reason why all the gods get together, is because they're being killed by something that is bigger than that universe's god. So it's like something, and you see that shot where they've got the Watcher, they've got Death, they've got all those like larger than the universe themselves entities there. So it's almost like the gods to the gods. So maybe this is one of those things where it's like, hey, like even we're gonna have the Celestials pull them in because we don't know what's going on here. Like, this is something like we've never seen ever happen before, kind of type deal.
That's a great point there.
Yeah, good point.
Phase 4, Marvel producer Richie Palmer has confirmed who the two most important characters in Phase 4 are. If Doctor Strange is the anchor of the MCU of Phase 4, then Wanda Maximoff is the jewel in the crown, he said. So that's interesting. Especially we'll see how things were left with Wanda at the end of Multiverse of Madness and where that can go.
Yeah, because so are we going to see her again anytime soon? Then obviously we've seen lots of Doctor Strange. I don't know. It feels like that comment makes me feel like we're going to see her again.
Yep.
Fairly soon.
Yeah, and America Chavez was being trained, in the mystic arts, so we know that she's going to have that future relationship with Strange. So that going forward, you obviously Wanda's probably not going to come back and instantly go after America Chavez, but they could definitely build on their past bad relationship in the future with America Chavez, Doctor Strange, and Wanda.
And also too, we did see what Billy was in the Mount Wundagore as well on the wall. So there's going to be more story there to tell.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they really go into the origin of chaos magic and stuff in the MCU, or if they just kind of got us to that point and they just kind of leave it kind of ambiguous now.
So Arms, he's excited. He loves that about that comment, and he says he wants more of the witch. And he also said, "Good shout, Alex. America was cool. Want to see more? Definitely do want to see more of America Chavez." So
yeah, I think she's in that that same group as me for me as Kate Bishop and Kamala Khan and Yelena, and she's in that same group of people that would be that would form a really interesting group, all quite similar, to be honest. You know, quite exciting. I mean, Yelena's probably not similar, but America, Kamala, and Kate, all quite excitable, sort of young characters that need guidance.
I think America Chavez is also one of those characters that I see being like really influential in the war against Kang.
Yep.
Like you know, like she's kind of like a wild card that they could use against him that he wouldn't be able to really do much about. So I see her being as much a threat to the multiverse and to Kang, and probably being another character that kind of becomes really like heavily featured in a lot of stuff going forward, because she's going to be a threat and as much of a help to the good guys, you know?
Yeah, because where's she from? Because we know she's born outside the multiverse. So is she a Beyonder? Is she a Watcher? Is she born where the TVA's at? Because she's the only one of her. She never dreams.
Yeah.
So she's basically a Nexus being, I guess, in the MCU.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess that there's no Nightmare in the MCU now, since we know dreams are just other variants of themselves. So I guess there will be no Nightmare in the MCU. You know?
RMC says Young Avengers, so definitely leaving that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deadpool, they're assembling product crew for filming. So it looks like Deadpool 3 is chugging along.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. We already know they've been working on the script, and now they're getting a production crew for filming. So they'll probably have announcements about that too coming up about Deadpool 3.
I really hope they keep the same edginess to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not even talking about swearing or violence. That's not what I mean. Just the edginess that it's got.
That style.
Yeah, even while being comedic, it's still edgy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what I hope they don't lose. Even if they lose, I know they're saying it's going to be R-rated, aren't they? So even if it's not, and they lose some violence, but then maybe that is part of what makes up the edginess, I guess.
It does. I think that's part of the Deadpool package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, how many heroes do you see, like, you know, hurt somebody and then threaten to run them over with a Zamboni? You know, like, so.
Yeah, and I can't help but feel I watched the episode, the Punisher, prison escape or prison fight scene the other day, and you know, I can't, and then I instantly just thought of the Raid again. And went and watched the Raid hallway, the first movie, the hallway scene when he's fighting against all the guys with knives, and there's just something about that kind of that raw. I don't know what it is. It just gets you it just gets you going, isn't it? And it's not. And I don't know. Maybe it is about the blood and the violence. Maybe it is. I don't know, but I don't. Do you know what I mean? You just can't replicate that without getting it, can you? You could, without getting that, there's just something missing.
Yeah, and I think with characters like that, like, they're often like the characters in stories that are like, hey, this is the guy that's going to do the terrible thing that we don't want to. So, like, we look at characters like Frank Castle and we see how he's like kind of like not like a bad guy, but he's kind of like a dirty guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, we don't mind seeing him like get into a bloody hallway fight, but like if Spider-Man did something like that, people would be horrified, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, so I wonder, actually that's a really good point. So I wonder whether they could kind of, actually I want that's actually makes sense, doesn't it? Like you say, not that Frank is a nasty person, but he's almost like a tool. So I wonder whether like the rating itself, like depending on who's doing the violence and to who as well, you know, if it's a bad guy committing the violence against innocent civilians, obviously that's horrific. But if it's a good, quote unquote good guy doing it against criminals, you know, evil people, maybe they can, you know, or if it's Spider-Man and it doesn't quite work, like you said, that's a really good point, actually, Alex. I like that.
I'm just like thinking of that story where Doc Ock switches bodies with Spider-Man, and he punches Scorpion's jaw off or something like that,
Yeah,
and then he finds out that he like pulls his punches, you know, and that's exactly what I'm just like kind of referencing in my head. There is kind of like once you actually see, I guess, like what they go through, like the hero, like, you know, you kind of see it through their eyes. It completely changes things, I guess.
Yeah.
So RMC calls it animalistic, and then Lisa apparently has never watched Deadpool, so Roxy's telling her she's missing out.
What?
Yeah.
But
movie.
RMC goes, that's why I've always said there's only a handful of characters that call for that treatment. They need to be violent or it doesn't work, but nowhere near all characters, which you're spot on, RMC.
Yeah, you know, like you say, you wouldn't expect Peter Parker to be that violent, would you? You know, he's not really going to cause that kind of damage. Even if he could, he wouldn't.
Well, I mean, it's not his MO. Like, Peter Parker doesn't try and, like, you know, punch holes through people. Like, that's not his game. Like, he webs people up and makes them submit and then leaves them, you know? Like, that's
more
his...
disarm than hurt.
Yeah, so he's not trying to hurt people. So...
Have you guys seen the original Old Boy? Not the one with Josh Brolin and Wanda, but the original one, the original Korean version.
Yeah.
That the elevator when he goes back to his captor's place with the hammer and that whole fight scene.
Yeah,
they could not do that movie without that. So it's along those similar lines.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a certain air that kind of violence breeds.
Yep.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because, you know, we talk about it, and could you make a Punisher series or movie without it? And I don't know, I just don't think you could.
You could, but you have to do a lot of camera tricks. Like, you would have to basically show him pointing the gun at the person, shooting it, hearing it go off, maybe a splatter on the wall, but not actually see the person, you know, being killed type of thing. It'd be those kind of camera angle tricks.
And then it's like, you know, come on, stop patronizing. Even there's patronizing to 12-year-olds, isn't it? Really, to be honest. He's still done it. You just haven't seen it. It's the same thing. Everything's exactly the same. And not that we need to see it, but yeah, I don't even think you'd see that kind of violence in them. Anyway, I think we're digressing here.
Yeah.
So
anyways, I mentioned earlier, you brought up on this one too about the next saga.
Yes.
So Kevin Feige has talked about that. He says, as we're nearing the end of Phase 4, I think people will start to see where the next saga is going. I think there have been many clues already that are at least apparent to me of where this whole saga is going. But we'll be a little more direct about it in the coming months to set a plan so audiences who want to see the bigger picture can see a tiny, tiny, tiny bit more of the roadmap. He also teased announcements in the coming months. We'll be a little more direct about that in the coming months to set a plan so audiences will want to see the bigger picture. And they can see that roadmap of it. So it sounds like between Comic-Con and D23 that we'll see, you know, the culmination of Phase 4 and into Phase 5 in the future of where the MCU is going, whether it's Secret Wars or, but yeah, that's where RMC just said in the chat. Secret Wars saga. So
I think at D23 we're going to get a Secret Wars announcement. You know,
Roxy's like, it's so confusing right now. Phase 4.
It is, I think, because they're going. There's a lot of branches that they've started that are starting to grow that I don't think we're going to see finished in the next couple of years. These are just things that are going to go on forever. But I think we're going to get a Secret Wars sort of part 1 and part 2 in a similar way that they've done Infinity War part 1 and part 2 announcement.
Yeah, and they could very well bring in all like these various universes of characters, you know, X-Men and stuff from other universes, and then at the very end of the Secret Wars saga, just reset everything and have it all in one universe again, and then just go forward. Boom, like.
And that was so in the comics. That was the all new, improved Marvel or something like that, wasn't it called? Didn't they? Wasn't that what they called it? They had Secret Wars, and then it just went. Everything just came into one. So the Ultimates universe and the 616 universe and the the universe that Old Man Logan was in, and all of that, they all sort of mushed into one after Secret Wars, and it was I think it was they called it the all new, all improved Marvel. I'm sure they did, but yeah, that's what's going to happen, I reckon, Alex. I'm with you.
But do you think they're going to call it the Secret Wars saga? Is Kang going to be the big bad like Thanos was, or because if it's going to be Kang, why don't they just call it the King Dynasty, right?
Mhm.
They could easily call it that and have Secret Wars in it. But are we going to see things like God Doom and Beyonders and that kind of stuff? So unless we're going to see more than one big bad, I can see them calling it the Secret Wars saga. Unless they're only going to have Kang as the single big bad for this.
Unless Kang isn't going to be the big bad for this.
Yeah.
Maybe we're all thinking he is, and he's not.
I just feel like the Beyonder probably won't be like a big bad here or be tied to anything. I feel like it'll be more probably Kang, in my opinion, and they might try and like slide some roles around and maybe put Kang in more of like an orchestration role of this big Secret Wars event, you know?
ROC thinks of Doom.
Yeah, and maybe Doom will come out on top after. Let's just say, for example, they do try and repeat the sort of Infinity War Endgame 2 movie kind of thing. Maybe Doom will come out on top after the first part.
Doom doesn't need the Beyonder's power. He just needs a TemPad to get into the TVA. And then once Doom's in the TVA, I'm sure Doom could figure something out. Yeah, like Doom's going to be like in charge of it, and then you're going to find out that the multiverse is being run by Doom all of a sudden, and you're like, what in the world, you know? Like,
and Roxy is so excited for Doom. So yeah, it could be the Secret Wars saga, the King Dynasty, Battle World, whatever you want to call it, So I'm interested to see how they do that. So Frothy, who played Kazi in Hawkeye, he has teased his return. He says, "The truth is, I don't really know just yet, but I very much hope that Kazi can make an appearance. I wouldn't put money on the fact that he met an untimely end at the end of Hawkeye. No one's ever dead in Marvel. I'd be very hopeful, and I'd be certainly thrilled to revisit the character and the world. I had such a good time. So I wonder, I definitely could see him in Echo, especially for flashbacks, and maybe we'll get to, and too bad Jimmy's not listening right now. Maybe we'll get to him being the killer clown type thing, and because of injuries of what happened in Hawkeye. So
I was gonna say, I felt like they kind of shortchanged his character a little bit, and they could have extended it a little bit. But I agree with you on the flashbacks. Like, the flashbacks are always wide open, but they could definitely bring him back if they chose to do so.
Yeah, it feels like they didn't. They had all the build up and that tension between them, but they didn't end it properly. So I think that's where we could see him. And then RMC, immediately thought Echo as well. X-Men 97 has a working title, and it sounds like it may be called Teen Spirit, which kind of fits, So it seems like that's picking up more stuff. And I don't know if I told you though that we did get the X-Men 97 that in the captions. If you watch the closed captions for Multiverse of Madness, it does say X-Men 97 theme when Professor Xavier comes rolling out in the Illuminati scene. So.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I hope that's I hope they don't. I hope they do enough promotion for that to make it widely received and widely watched.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
I love the original one, so I'm looking forward to seeing it and how it's going to tie into the rest of things. We know they did fall through a cartoon universe as well in Multiverse of Madness. So
yeah, and I hope they keep the episodes short as well. I hope they are sort of those 23-minute episodes, like that sort of quick blast, but I hope we get a lot of them.
Do you think that this could be the conduit to introduce X-Men into the MCU? Like, for example, X-Men 97 is like the cartoon dimension they're stuck in, and somehow they make it over into the main MCU, like we talked about earlier with Dimensions in our Miss Marvel episode. I wonder if they could spin it that way. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it might be a way to sort of softly introduce them. In the same way that they sort of softly introduced some parts of What If in What
Yeah.
If.
So I think we lost Alex.
Yeah, he's frozen. He looks like
Yeah.
he's deep in thought in this image.
We'll see if he comes back.
I'm
In
sure
the
he will.
meantime, yeah. Oh, RMC says, "Oh, interesting, Jar, not bad." So he might like that theory about they'll use cartoons to bring him in. Let me see if he's messaging me. Nope, that's something else. RMC's laughing. So I want Alex to come back. So I'm gonna skip the Blade news until he comes
That's
back.
a good idea. Yeah, go on in.
Yeah, because I know Alex will have some good things. So,
Yes, will.
Multiverse of Madness Assembled will be on Disney Plus on July 1st. So the Assembled episode of that will be there. And then there's been talks about a third. Well, Benedict Cumberbatch has made some comments about a third movie. He says, "I hope so. I would love to do another one. Doctor Strange is such a complex character, and it feels like there's so much more to explore with him. He is such a brilliant character, and I'm having a wild time playing him," which I'm calling now. I think it's going to be Doctor Strange in the Dark Dimension as the third film. That pretty much makes all kind of sense the way they ended that with the post-credit scene.
Yeah, he's got he's got to have a third movie. There's no way they're not going to give him a third movie, especially after you said earlier on about the producer saying that he's one of the linchpins of the Phase. There's no way you're not getting a third movie.
And speaking of Multiverse of Madness, also there was a Wasp was going to be part of the Illuminati. It sounds like. So Michael Waldron said, "Yeah, I think I watched Aliens, and I was just thinking about the way those Marines got massacred, and yeah, I was glad it worked. I think originally the Wasp was in a version of the Illuminati, and the Wasp shrunk down and flew at Wanda, and Wanda just clapped her hands and just smushed the Wasp in the first draft. I don't know why they didn't do that. That'd have been awesome to see on screen. Is her going, and just her just falling down and being the end of her. So
a little bit Homelander and Termite-esque in the last episode.
Exactly.
It just squashes him with his boot. Yeah, I always, these early drafts when people go, oh yeah, they were supposed to be, they were in it, and this person was in it. I should imagine there's a million things written, and oh yeah, Wasp was in it. Oh yeah, and this person was in it, and that person was in it, and this person was in it, and we was going to do this, and we was going to do that. There's probably thousands of versions of everything. So you could probably say that about anybody. It was just an idea that somebody come up with. That somewhere along the line they've written it down on a piece of paper, and then oh yeah, we had an idea that Wasp could have been in it, and then Wanda could have done this, and clapped her hands. So I think I always take those with a bit of a grain of salt. Not because I don't believe them, but just because there must be versions where everybody's been in it, and you go, okay,
like Superior Iron Man.
yeah. But again, obviously that was someone's idea. And then they've gone, for whatever reason, they've gone no. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have a massive influence on the story. It just means that somebody had an idea.
RMC says that would have been cool to see. And then he also says, "I love to see everything that was cut from Mom." Yeah, we need an extended cut version. That'd be kind of cool.
In that same vein, Andy, I also think they can use What If as a backdoor for things to kind of test the waters for ideas for shows, for movies, and things like that. They kind of did that with the zombie episode, I feel like, and kind of tested the waters to see if Marvel fans would really be really well received with Marvel Zombies, and everybody loved it. So, you know.
While you was just off there, we kind of said the exact same thing about X-Men 97, about that kind of being like a soft introduction to the X-Men, and a little bit like, well, we could go down this route. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So now that you're back, I'll circle back to Blade, because I didn't want to go over this while you were gone, because I know you're having some input here. So a couple things about Blade have come out. So first, Wesley Snipes was asked about the rating, since it's not rated R. He goes, "I think those kind of stories lend themselves to a wide range of dialogue and situations, both adult and young adult." On the ratings debate, he says, "I don't know. It seems like the R rating and PG-13 base is sliding now, because it seems that now the 13-year-olds can speak better words than the adults can." So then he went on to say, excuse me, "As long as it's true and organic to the subject matter, the plot, and the world that's created," he says, "if it's there's consistency, I think it's fine to be PG-13. So
Yeah,
So there's
yeah,
some,
and
I think he's pretty on there.
yeah, and he's brought up a couple of things there as well because he didn't actually talk about violence. He didn't talk about blood or gruesomeness or anything like that. He spoke about the words. He spoke about the themes. He spoke about dialogue and things like that. So he spoke about nothing to do with what we tend to think an R rating means.
Mhm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I know we just spoke about 10 minutes ago, spoke about violence and things like that, but it doesn't always have to mean that's what it is. The themes of something. Like, I've got no real problem. I've said this before. I've got blood. I've got no real problem with my sons. I mean, my older one's a bit bigger now, but I've got no problem with them watching violence as such, especially fantasy violence. But sometimes when the themes are different. So, like you spoke about Old Boy, Jarian.
Yep.
That's not a movie that I'd let my younger one watch for obvious reasons, but it's nothing to do with the violence. It's just
It's a story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, look at Twilight. You had teenagers watching Twilight, and there's death, there's blood, there's gore in that one, but it's a different kind of story.
Exactly.
And the funny thing I think with Blade too is with vampires, like, yeah, you're gonna have fighting, you're gonna have vampires getting their heads cut off and things like that, or taking a stake to the chest, however they choose to do it. But you don't have to have blood. You can literally, they do this thing in movies with vampires all the time where they get stabbed, they turn to dust.
Oh, yep.
It's the same thing that they do in Infinity War when they snap and everybody turns to dust. It's very similar to that.
Yeah, but again, Alex, like you were saying a minute ago, they're vampires. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's okay that they get stabbed in the heart. It's okay that they get their heads cut off. It's okay that they get turned to dust or burnt alive. That's fine. They're vampires. It's okay. They're fair game.
RMC goes, don't want your 12-year-old watching The Boys. Yeah, my son has not watched The Boys, especially not the last episode.
I showed my older son the first episode though.
Oh, the termite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Episode.
Okay. He also went on to say there were 2 scripts for Blade 4. We actually wrote 2 scripts. We have 2 versions of a story that would have fit well into the Blade world. But since we didn't go that route, we didn't have the knock on the door again. We tweaked them, and now we use them for something else. So I got 2 Blade killers. So that's interesting.
Cool.
And then here's the news I wanted Alex input on right here. 14-year-old actress Milan Ray has been cast in an important key role in the upcoming Blade film. And my mind goes directly to Dracula's daughter, Lilith.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's Blade's daughter. This has to be Dracula's daughter, Lilith, they're casting for this role.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting too, because I feel like Dracula is one of those characters they don't have to introduce right away. They can work up to. And that could be something that can be like a Blade villain revealed way down the road. And they start by, like you say, introduce his daughter, bring her in, and just be like, oh yeah, Dracula, the guy that you want Blade, he's out there, but you'll never find him, type deal. Like one of those typical things villains do in movies, Yep.
So that's interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I'm hoping it's that Halloween-ish spot next year. For it. So I'm circling back at Deadpool 3 because I got to mention this. Rhett Reese has made some comments about it. He said it's a wonderful opportunity for fish out of water. Deadpool is a lunatic at the center of a movie. To drop a lunatic into a very sane world, it's straight butter. It's going to be really fun. So back to what we talked about earlier about with Deadpool, I think they're going to keep that same theme. They may change some things up, but I think they're going to have the same theme as they had.
Yeah,
hopefully.
The last piece of news I have before open conversation here is that is Madam Web news, and I'm sure this will spark some conversation. Reportedly, Kevin Feige has been listed as producer on the film, and the movie will be a bridge connecting Spider-Verse to MCU. Is the rumor?
Oh wow!
So, which I think this is the right. If this is true, that he's been attached to the film, I think it's the right thing to do, especially what we saw with No Way Home. Because we've seen that right now that Sony's kind of a heated mess.
Struggling.
Yeah, they're struggling. Morbius, not really good.
Did you see
hearing the news about Craven,
Craven, yeah.
being an animal lover or something, or
Yeah.
what was it? It's almost like and me, I kind of wait to see how things go before I judge
Mhm.
them, but I'm kind of skeptical of the directions that Sony's taking in some of these films. So
Mhm.
if they're kind of learning from their mistakes and saying, okay, we're bringing Marvel back in, we're going to bring this bridge between back and forth between the universes, I think that's a good thing. And RMC is already mad in here. Why couldn't they do that to Craven?
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know what they're doing there with Craven, but I really
then-
do hope that they move in a good direction with Feige kind of
Yep.
helping steer the ship here.
Yeah.
Roxy goes vegan, LOL, and RMC goes, I'm judging. So
Yeah, it can't. Craven can't be. No, it needs to be a proper sort of old-fashioned. Yeah,
That would be like Mr. Negative being a criminal to steal from people or whoever to give to the people who need food in the soup kitchen. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just it's not they're not I hope they would never do something like that, like
yeah.
but then,
it-
have they got to make him the hero of his own story somehow?
See,
though?
that's what
Yeah.
I'm about to say that too, because I did heard that he was kind of in a heroish role in the story, but this could also be just like you said before, Andy, from different points of view.
Mhm.
It could be from his point of view as the villain, but to him, he's a hero.
Yeah,
That could be that as well. And then RMC goes, he'll be a full-on eco terrorist.
But like this doesn't sound like Craven's Last Hunt, like which they originally like pitched that idea, I thought, and it seems like it's evolved into something completely different now. And I'm really curious to see because Craven's Last Hunt was a really popular story. I know a lot of fans liked it. It's got Craven, basically dying of cancer and kind of working through those last days. So I'm interested to see, do they do one movie with this? Where does it go?
I don't think they should waste Aaron Taylor Johnson though. I'd like to see him be more of a permanent role in doing something in comic book movies. It was a shame that we lost him as Pietro, really.
But it does sound like they are trying to build up to their own Sinister Six film, though.
Mhm.
So interesting to see how they do that, like a proper villain film. I could see if somebody does a Sinister Six film, I don't know why, but Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13 kind of come to mind. If they do a Sinister Six like film based on villains, that's what it kind of, I don't know, I'm picturing in my mind right now.
I kind of like Andy's previous idea about like doing the movies from like one perspective
Yep.
and then seeing the other from the other perspective. That's kind of like what would happen there if they did a Suicide Squad, like kind of Avengers style film where they all come together, but
Yeah.
then like you would also, it's like one of those things where, they eventually always lose because they're villains. So
I know I've suggested this before, but we could have a Tarantino Reservoir Dogs-esque Sinister Six movie.
That'd work.
That'd be quite fun, wouldn't it?
Like if they could hand the reins to James Gunn too, that'd work as well. What we've
Yeah.
seen with him doing with Suicide Squad, so
Yeah,
and Peacemaker.
yeah.
RMC goes desperately want Craven in the MCU. We need it for Secret Wars and Wastelanders, which I agree. And hopefully, with this Madam Web news, that if that's a bridge, that they can go back and forth between the universes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Madam Web's got a few multiverse ties there, so they can, and Feige can make it work.
Yep.
He can figure out a way.
And then it leads to Spider Gwen and other characters too as well. And maybe getting a live action Miles Morales.
Mhm.
Interesting to see where they go with this whole Spidey or Spider Man, whatever the universe is called, Sony Spider Man universe.
Spunk.
But I mean, like, it would be great to see a Black Cat movie one day.
Yes.
Or even just a show. Like, I'll take a show.
Yep.
Like,
There's been talk about Black Cat, Rhino as well.
yeah.
So,
I mean,
hopefully a proper Rhino.
Mhm.
He's got such a rich, like the Spider-Man characters are so, there's so many of them and they're so interesting and rich and diverse, aren't they? And it's a shame that we've not really got something that can a platform for them. There's so many great, and visually they all look brilliant as well. And it's a shame at the moment that it's not
They could take a character like Spider-Man 2099 and do it like Batman Beyond in live action, and people would love that. But like that would be just like something futuristic that they could put their own kind of like weird little spin on. And yeah, I mean, like they can kind of go all over the place with a lot of these Spider-Man characters and underneath that Spider-Man umbrella, I guess.
And that's why I'm so not bummed, but disappointed they didn't do an Amazing Spider-Man 3, because they were setting that all up. Yes, the Rhino suit, terrible. Terrible. Mechanical suit was terrible. But the thought of having those characters, we saw the Doc Ock arms, we saw other things in that little thing at the end of the movie. So, oh, man.
Yeah.
Is RMC said Sony sucks. They're just bad. They're just bad at it.
Yeah.
They are just bad at it, aren't they? That is it. Like, just go and make different movies.
I mean,
move this stuff to Marvel.
They gave us the original Spider-Man movies.
Well,
Those did really well.
Yeah, but that was before they had to try and start building a universe.
Yep, they were isolated things.
Yeah, that's it. I think this universe building thing is a different beast than just making single good movies. Because I mean, let's face it, we've seen some good movies in regards to DC movies. I know, obviously, Alex, you've got a big interest in that. Interest in that, and we've seen some really good single DC movies. But in regards to building a cohesive universe, they've not really done a very good job. But and so the point is that single good movies can exist outside of a universe, but a universe is another beast.
Sony's kind of got that Netflix problem where like the shows and movies that they come out with could be sort of related to what's going on in the MCU, but the MCU doesn't have to claim it if they don't want to, but they very well could. But the funny thing about that is like they come out with something like Morbius and fans don't like it. Like, obviously the MCU's like, we're not going to claim that. Like, we didn't want that, like we didn't tell you to make it that way. So like the projects that the MCU can be involved in, they can take claim to that. But like, I feel like Sony's kind of like playing a little bit with the like, hey, we work with the MCU. Maybe like we can kind of get a lot of people to like our other stuff too, since we work with them kind of.
Yeah, almost using the association to boost their other movies and other properties.
But you can tell a difference between when Feige's involved versus when Sony's, leading the charge themselves.
And on your DC comment, I think they're on the right track for a while. They just blew things up, and through acquisitions and that kind of stuff, there was DC kind of went sideways because their crossovers on CW were done pretty well. Some of their CW shows are good. Some are terrible. It seemed like for a while they're on the right path with Batman and Superman and Aquaman and Wonder Woman. But now it's like Aquaman and Wonder Woman are only two left now of that universe. I think if DC wants to do something, they need to. I think they have a good plan with Shazam. I think they need to build around Shazam and Black Adam, and then try to get some stuff built into there with what they're doing with Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, that kind of stuff. Maybe they can retool some of that. But I also think the Suicide Squad stuff also has been well for them as also.
And I think the funny thing, kind of using DC as a comparison, like especially with comics too, DC's kind of bought up a lot of their competitors over the years. And so like even Shazam was made by Wiz, and he was kind of like a competitor to Superman. So they kind of like bought them up, gave him his own universe, included him in the DC multiverse, and then eventually he became like a mainstream DC character. A lot of characters that happens to. DC kind of, they've done that with like Charlton Comics, Wiz Comics, like all kinds of different like things. They have Vertigo, they have several imprints that are underneath them that they include their universe. But kind of like on the weird flip side of that, Marvel has all these great characters that have always been under their universe for the most part, but they just didn't, they gave a lot of the movie rights away.
Yep.
At one point. So like that's the difference maker. It's like DC's got all these characters still underneath their umbrella, and they've just been amassing more and more and more, and they always have. Whereas like Marvel's kind of on the flip side of that, where they're kind of pulling everybody back underneath the umbrella again in the movie.
And doesn't Marvel also pull from Dark Horse at times too?
Dark Horse is, I think that's underneath the DC umbrella. So I mean, but
Or
like
DC, one pulls, yeah, or DC, but I know one of them sometimes pull from Dark Horse though.
yeah, I mean, there's so many different like brands, and I mean, you've got Image that was created by like people from Marvel, you know, like so like you've got all kinds of different things, and I think that the big kind of takeaway is you know, even Stan Lee, he worked for DC. He did a Just Imagine project where he reimagined all of the Justice League characters. So like there's kind of like some give and take here across the aisle too.
Yeah, I think that all of these different things can be enjoyed in and of themselves, can't they?
In a vacuum. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in a vacuum. And what is it that you're going in to watch? I think a lot of people misunderstand sometimes when they're going to watch a movie that, oh, there's going to be a sequel, or there is a prequel, or there's this whole big kind of lore around this character and these other characters. And sometimes it doesn't need to be, does it? So it just needs to be, this is just a movie and that's it. You know, just watch this one movie and enjoy it and then move on. You know, whether there's a sequel or a prequel or nothing, you know, don't expect anything. Just watch it as a single thing. And then on the other hand, you've got these big franchises that go on for ever and ever and 10 years and, you know, or 20 years, or in the case of Star Wars, 40 years. So there's something Star Wars, you know, what they're trying to do now is they're trying to retcon things that happened 40 years ago in movies. And I'm really not a lover of this argument of, oh, well, what happened, you know, when he said that then, because in the original Star Wars, Alec Guinness said this. That was 40 years ago. Like, what do you expect? Like, use just a bit of imagination. Just they're using a bit of creative license. Like, I mean, no, I don't think it's been lazy at all. I think they've tried to kind of tie these things in Star Wars as an example. They've tried to tie these things in as well as possible without, you know, holding themselves at gunpoint and saying it has to be exactly like what we've just said, while still being able to open the story up to other possibilities going forwards now, you know? But I think people are so stiff and rigid sometimes, aren't they, that they just don't want to move. They're like, no, I'm going to stand by my guns. I hate everything other than the original movie.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you know, with like things like DC has reset their universe tons of times with like characters like the Flash. So when you reset the universe, you can kind of fix those little problems and kind of just like, you know, just kind of like with a broad brush, just kind of paint over it and just be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, that happened, but like that's not the same anymore. So like we're gonna move on now, you know, like, but like I think that's probably a little bit harder to do in Star Wars, you know. For comparison.
They could do it. I don't think they could do it, but that's where you keep someone like the Flash in your back pocket all the time.
Yeah.
You know? Talking about the Flash, obviously Ezra Miller has just been canned, hasn't he?
Yeah. That's
Is he canned?
I think so.
I think they came out and they said that that's the plan, because I think they're looking forward now and they're like, okay, like we can't really have like a premiere and have him show up and be like the star of this movie. They're talking about possibly putting The Flash on HBO Max and doing it as like a HBO Max digital release, which I think is like just like, wow, if they do that, that's a complete game changer, because this is supposed to be the movie that is supposed to change the entire like cinematic history that they've had and set forward everything. So it's like you're getting your first film but digitally on HBO Max. So they may not even put it in theaters, which is going to be a big missed opportunity, but I think they're afraid to find out if they put it in theaters how well people will respond to it. If they do that and nobody shows up, they don't want people to not show up and find out that Ezra Miller has tanked this film so bad, you know, because like he's just not popular.
Yeah, no. he's yeah. And RMC Mark saved from Ezra Miller today.
Yeah.
I just still remember that one video where he threatened the KKK. I don't know why. In a specific chapter of them, and then from there it just went downhill from there. And I know he's had other stuff in his past too as well, but I don't know. hopefully whatever's going on with him, he gets the help he needs or figures things out.
No,
you
of
know,
course.
Yeah,
so-
yeah.
Yeah, of course. He's clearly a troubled fella. And obviously Amber Heard's been canned now as well. She's gone.
Yep.
Not I mean, I think they could probably hide that in a recast quite comfortably, really.
Which a lot of people are saying people like, or a person like Amelia Clark would be a great recast for that. And I think, she could slot in and play the role. She looks very similar, but, like people love Amelia Clark, so nobody's going to be upset about her playing Mara and that role being switched,
Yep.
Yeah,
Worked with
I
Jason
loved her in that,
Momoa as
in
well.
that Terminator remake.
Yeah.
The last Terminator movie they made, I loved her in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent. Look at that. We're right nearly on the hour mark. We've had a good chat about the news and just like you said, Joe, a bit of an open conversation. Chatted about Star Wars and DC and all sorts of stuff. I think, are we done? Have we got any closing thoughts?
Nope, I just didn't know that. I didn't know the Ezra Miller. So that's good to know. Must have missed that when I was on vacation last week on holiday. So that's good to know that they're moving forward in the direction.
Yeah, they're talking about it, and it seems like they don't really know what to do about that movie as of right now. So I think they've got that issue where they've got so many people like into it now. They've got so much money into it. So many people have been involved that they can't just like throw it all in the trash and start over or even go back and do reshoots at this point. Because if they go back and they start doing reshoots, like he's the centerpiece of the movie. So it's kind of hard. Like you can't like shoot it at different angles or something, to fix that problem with a main character. So like that's the kind of crappy part,
A bit. It's a bit much, isn't it? Like you say, to remove the main character out of the movie.
Yeah.
It's not really going to happen. Right, excellent. Well done, lads. Let's wrap this one up then.
Yeah.
It's been a long evening, couple of shows, lots of conversation about all sorts of different things. It's been a pleasure though, and we'll be back next week talking about the episode 4 of Miss Marvel and the week's news. It's been a pleasure. Take care.
Have a good one.
Guys.
Why don't you tell them about the time we faced?
All right.